If you scrub through my upload history, you can quickly piece together that I am a big Mario fangirl, but I'd be lying if I said I was the exact same with Sonic. And that's not me saying it's bad, I just haven't played much of the series. It would be disingenuous for me to say that I am a huge fan. The only two titles I've played is Sonic 2 and Generations, and even those I didn't even properly beat. I can say they were fun at least. So with that, what about Sonic Colors? There were 4 Sonic platformers in total to release for the Wii, and this one in my hand is the last of them to come out. I had very little thought going into this, so let's just get into the game. As you should expect from a Sonic title, he's paired with Tails and is up against Dr. Eggman, who this time is trying to harness power from these alien creatures named Wisps. These little dudes would become a repeating face in the franchise, but Colors is where it all started. Wisps essentially function as power-ups and provide variety from the typical Sonic movement. Yet another thing here that is in typical Sonic fashion is the acts, which serve as unique worlds, with there being 7 in total here. The first of the bunch is in Tropical Resort, and functions as the game's introduction. You learn all about the basic controls that you'll repeatedly use in one way or another throughout, such as locking into enemies and double jumping. Immediately, you're met with white wisps, who give you a boost upon activation. Just simply press B. After breezing through the first couple stages is where you'll also first witness the in-game cutscenes that pop up every so often between acts and stages. It's generally just Sonic and Tails cracking cheap one-liners while figuring out what they need to do to not just progress through each new world, but of course ultimately defeat Eggman. To prove how cheesy at best the cutscene writing is, here's a little snippet from in between acts.
So, how's your translator thingy coming along?
I think it's done. It's in binary code, so only I can read it.
Who are you, and what is happening to your people?
Okay, he says his name is Talks a Lot, and he's from a faraway soda, and where flowers water them with dances.
Yeah, I think your machine still has some bugs.
The Tropical Resort continues to teach players about the level design, such as Quick Step mode, where you're just dodging obstacles left and right, and later running into required stomp attacks. Later on is yet another Wisp, this time of the cyan variety, and provides a laser, allowing you to zip across the stage. This one is really fun to use. Each act also ends with a boss fight, with the first one here being Rotatatron. It takes place in this Ferris wheel, and to defeat it, I just made my way upwards, and went for homing attacks. For the second act, you can pick your own path, and I went with Starlight Carnival, and I gotta say, this one from the get-go is stunning visually. I'd even go as far as saying it's perhaps too overstimulating at times, but I suppose that may be the goal here. I did die on certain sections just because I didn't immediately realize what I was supposed to avoid or jump to next, but once I did, the initial couple acts were no issue. The third one I absolutely hated though. Half of it turns into what is essentially an auto-scroller on a trampoline. I spent an embarrassing amount of time on this one. At least that's the only one I have to complain about in this area. The fourth was a bit of climbing through tight spaces, and the fifth was back to being what I praised. Before approaching the boss, I also get a taste of the green wisp that allows you to hover mid-air. This gets used a ton, having full sections built for using this ability. Starlight ends with Frigate Orkin, a blimp designed around whales. Interesting. This was a huge step up in difficulty, housing multiple sections of avoiding projectiles, with one of them giving you a moment to get up close and land some hits. These left-right sections are brutal. You get hit by one of these and you're not having a fun time. It's a huge difficulty increase, and I'm not really a fan of how it's designed, but hey, could be worse. Remember that clip I showed you earlier where Tails was trying to translate what the Wisp was saying? Well, it's finally up and running. Not sure how much further I even need to describe these cutscenes, cause once again, it's just full of low-tier jokes. The Wisp calls Eggman baddie nose hair, which, yeah, I guess you're right. But yeah, these cheesy cutscenes don't add too much here. Sweet Mountain is up next, since that's the only one I didn't immediately choose, with it being fully food-themed. This is where I got a taste of the yellow wisps, which allow you to drill through the landscape. This one is so satisfying. You cut through the stage. That's cool as shit. I'd say the boss in this one takes a step up in complexity. It starts up on a ship with cannonballs you have to make your way past, which eventually takes you to a lever you can press. This then takes you up to Captain Jelly, and you'll have to deal with some of his minions. This process repeats, and each time you get up to him, you'll land a few more hits till it's over. Still not bad, but it's a little more time consuming, I suppose. Beating this zone once again puts the player in a choose your own path situation, and I chose Aquarium Park first. This is the game's water section, with Sonic going for for a bit of a dip. He can only stay underwater for so long unless you find air bubbles. At least here you'll come across orange wisps which shoot a rocket up towards the surface. Not sure if I have horribly much to say here, as this was personally one of the weaker areas in my opinion, but that may be my off and on bias towards water stages. It doesn't help that later on I got stuck in this part of the level that required heavy use of the green wisp. I eventually did get a grasp of it, and I'll agree that some of this struggle may have come from me just simply not thinking the best, but I feel this section was really unclear out of nowhere. My confusion continued in the fight against Admiral Jelly here. This continued what felt like a huge difficulty spike to me, but at least it was easier to wrap my head around this one versus the last stage. In fact, it was a similar format to the last boss, pressing the switch and then confronting the boss directly. Fortunately, this was followed by a zone I enjoyed way more, Planet Wisp. Connecting the dots from the name, this is the homeworld of the wisps scattered throughout the game. This is where I got a taste of the pink ones, where you turn into a spike and can cling to walls and ceilings. Overall this is cool, perhaps a little too chaotic at times though. The boss I have nothing to complain about as well. This zone was a breath of fresh air. Asteroid Coaster features the Mega Wisp, which puts you into a berserker frenzy form. Simply put, it allows you to slam your way through barriers. This gets used heavily later into the act, and it's a good type of chaotic, I would say. This act features a variety of other segments I thought were neat, such as off and on roller coaster action, and another part which, instead of being a normal stage, is more just a brief avoid everything section. While there's a lot more going on here, I think this continues to trend in greater variety than Planet Wisp started. This concludes with a fight against Frygate Scullion, an upgrade to what we saw in Starlight Carnival. It's the same formula as before, but it ramps up a lot. This is the most brutal fight by far, and I admittedly did get frustrated at some points, but between figuring out the pattern and getting lucky, I escaped. This means that there's only one act left, Terminal Velocity. With an act and a boss, Sonic is one step away from defeating Eggman here. This act is hurling down a pathway while avoiding enemies, and god, this was a bit of a pain. I gave up after a few minutes of playing, and decided I'd tackle this zone in a separate session. I suppose it's similar to the fight that was just had. You need to find the patterns, and good luck not getting hit. You probably will at least once, but as long as you barely squeeze by, that's all that matters. Of course, the boss is where things really ramp up. It's now time to show Eggman who's boss. He harnesses the power-ups of all the wisps we've seen so far, and is a whole series of avoid whatever he throws at you. He slams down blocks, shoots out lasers, and throws out projectiles. Every so often, there are brief sections where you can land a few hits, and it's just repeating this over and over again till you deal enough damage. This fight was way more fun than the acts that preceded it. Getting into a rhythm here was so satisfying. I have zero complaints about how this game ends, except that's actually not where it ends. There's still one more act. And not much to say here. It's a quick running section where you avoid the ground falling apart. With it taking less than a minute, now the game is over. With it having a straightforward happy ending where the Wisp thanks Sonic and vice versa, that's it. That was Sonic Colors, and for the first Sonic game I properly beat, I was quite satisfied with it. Sure, I do think there are some flaws with the level design in between. I've already complained a decent bit about that, but all in all, I think this is a great Sonic offering for the Wii. This may have taken me only 5 hours to beat, but between the bonus content and the whole score system, there is much more to be had here. Considering all of that, I rated a 7. I think that's pretty fair. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but it's fairly engaging. I'm worried I may have started on a high note for the Sonic games on the Wii, considering I've heard more mixed opinions regarding the others, but until then, that's all I have for today. So, thanks for watching.